Hello my friends, Fred Bergeron from Inaxsys. I hope you're having a great day. In this tutorial, I had the idea of actually showing you all the little adjustments that I make to a new GX site when I create the site and the first controller. We may have covered some of these things in separate tutorials, but I think it's a time for us maybe to do like a group, or not a group, but I mean something I can show that will help you building new sites. So basically, right now what I have is a brand new site I created. I already have my GX controller online because we've covered this before. But let me show you what I want to do at the beginning. So in other words, the system is online. I want to go to the monitoring page, setup, and status page editor. Okay, because by default, we only have the alarms page with the alarm is an acknowledge alarms, right? Now what I want to do is to receive events from the controller to make sure everything is okay, to make sure the timestamp of the controller is okay, that we are in the proper time zone and all these things. Okay, so what I want to do is to add a new status page. I'm going to call it all events. Okay, I want this layout here, and I'm going to select event window, and I'm going to use the all events report. Okay, and I save. So now if I go back under the status page view and change from alarms to all events, you see we have events coming in from the system. I can see it's a controller event. I have the name of the controller here. Okay, so at least now we can see what's happening in real time. Okay, one other adjustment that I want to make is under the programming section and daylight savings. Okay, so even though you have a time server assigned in the controller, the daylight saving will take care of changing the time back and forth when we have to adjust for daylight saving. Okay, so I'm going to use this, let's call it DLS for daylight saving. Here in Canada where we are is the second Sunday of March and the first Sunday of November. All right, I save. Also, if you have multiple controllers, you can select this option, so you don't have to create one of these, you know, for every controller. Okay, so that's gonna take care of the time adjustment. Okay, one of the things I like to do is to go in the controller properties and the time update. Okay, this is not connected to the internet at the moment, right? If it was, I would suggest that you enable the time server. I like to use the Google primary and secondary IP addresses in there because they never change, but I don't have an internet connection, so I don't use it. Okay, but make sure that your controller, if it's connected to the internet, that you have a time server. If it's offline and not connected to the internet, most of the time you can use the router or even a managed switch from various manufacturers that have an NTP server in them, so you can use the address of the router as the switch for this application. Also, like in this case, if you're using your GX controller as a reader expander, you want to go under the configuration tab, and I always say register as address 1. That's going to be my first reader expander in line, and I use relay 3 and 4 if it's a GX general controller. Okay, so that will enable the onboard reader ports. That's why they were flashing here, because this was not programmed. Okay, also if I'm using RS-485 readers, I'm going to set the type of network port to ICT 485. Okay, so that's gonna, after the download and the module update, that's gonna get rid of those readers that are offline. Okay, now what about managing the event database? If you have a very busy system, remember that with the Express edition of SQL, you have a maximum of like 10 gig in total for the database files, right? So if you don't want to exceed this limit, you can set an auto truncate of the event database here. So under global and global settings, under event database, you can select purge events older than, let's say, 1 year or 2 years. Well, 2 years is actually a good thing, so you can retrieve events from the past 2 years. But in some cases, 2 years is too long, and the database may be filled after 6 months or 1 year. So you just ask your client how long you want to keep events, from the past, and then you set this option and you save, and then every day at midnight, the system will remove any event that is older than 2 years. Okay. Also, make sure you're backing up the main database at least every day. You can also create a path for the event database. So this way, if the system has a catastrophic failure, you can always revert to the previous settings that were backed up at midnight every day, okay? One of the things that I like to do is to format the display name. If I use this option, let's say short format, when I go to a new user here, and I start putting the first name, you see, it's gonna automatically enter the name, the full name for you, okay? Just a little thing that we want to adjust, okay? So in other words, basically now, I'm gonna say yes. So now we have the controller online, the controller update the time automatically, we have events coming in, we have a backup done every night, at least of the main database, and we know in theory the database will never be full because it's gonna truncate older events on a daily basis at midnight. So I hope the tutorial helped you. It's a way to have the basic settings that are important done in your GX system. Now you can start adding more modules, adding users, adding access levels, but at least you have a system that will maintain itself in terms of daylight saving, time change, and also the database that will be saved on a daily basis, okay? So I hope you liked the video. Don't forget, we have a lot of tutorials on our channel that you can use to learn about our products. And if you have anything out of the ordinary, you can reach the Inaxsys teams from inaxsys.com. Okay? Again, my name is Fred Bergeron. Thanks for watching.